Great. All right, so welcome to the webinar this morning. Again, this is our HR monthly webinar for the month of April. What a fabulous day out there this morning. No matter where you are in New England, it's bright, it's sunny, it's beautiful. So we are so fortunate. We're getting summer at the start of spring, but no one's complaining about that, right? Because we're so happy to see the sunshine this morning. So I want to welcome you to our webinar today. We're going to talk about turning HR from a compliance center into the heartbeat of the organization, which I think in many ways it already is, right? I think a lot of you would agree with that. We are really the nerve center of where things are happening as HR professionals. So one of the things that we have to look at, though, is how we move going forward with everything that we've been through over the last 3 years. And it's literally almost 3 years, right, to this time of year that COVID kicked off on us, right? We're not going to spend any time talking about COVID today at all. But we are going to talk about things that we might want to keep, that we learned, and practices that we put into place as we look at creating the nerve center of our organizations, which I certainly believe should center around the HR function in every company. So we never want to be known as, oh, the department that does payroll and benefits administration, right? That's how things maybe used to be. Certainly not how they are today. We know that all of you, many of you are HR departments of one, right? You're leading the charge as an HR professional. You may have some support from another generalist or maybe someone on the administrative side of things. But as an HR department of one or a small team, there's so many complexities to what you have to tackle today. And things continue to change. So as we move through the program today, we're going to talk about ways that we can create that nerve-centric atmosphere around HR, which is a balance, and we'll talk about the balance. We are going to talk as well about some new competencies that we as HR professionals need to have in our toolkit in order to be successful going forward. So I want to welcome you to the webinar this morning. Just a quick reminder to keep yourself on mute. And we will have an opportunity at the end of the program to chat and share information and certainly talk with one another about what you're all doing inside your organizations. So I'm Allison Ebner from the Employers Association. Just want to say hi to folks who are jumping in. I know we still have some folks jumping in this morning. Just a few rules of the road. Keep yourself on mute if you don't mind this morning as we go through the program. I've got my colleagues, Lisa and Darlene, who are here today. You can type into the chat if you've got a question or a comment that we can address later. Definitely want to make this an engaging program for you this morning. So as we move forward, what's changed? Well, I think what hasn't changed, right? Everything has changed really in the last few years. When we look at our employee value proposition, our employee engagement, just what we call that currency, that agreement, that informal contract we have between employer and employee, everything has changed. Everything's been turned upside down, hence the graphic. So when we look at what's changed, we really want to say, okay, what's come up over the last few years that we should hang on to, and what do we need to do to move forward to create a better culture that produces amazing productivity in our organizations, that gives our employees a great experience, but keeps us happy, productive, and revenue generating, right? Because that's what our C-suite's looking for. So on our agenda today is a pulse check. Where are we? What is happening? And we're not going to get comfortable with anything that's happening today because it could all change tomorrow, right? Things are just like a roller coaster. You're going to see a few amusement park analogies in here this morning because I think that's what we're all feeling. We have the opportunity to chat with a lot of you on a weekly basis, and it's a roller coaster ride. So we're going to talk about where we are today. We're not going to get too comfortable here. We're also going to take that look back and look at things that we need to bring with us, things that we've learned, lessons we've learned, strategies we've employed, what should come with us as we march forward into the future. We are also going to talk about some HR priorities for this year and beyond. What are the things that we are focused on as that nerve center, that heartbeat in our organizations that we are working on this year, next year, and in the years ahead? What are the priorities in our workplaces that are going to help us keep that high employee value proposition and help drive the business forward at the same time? We're going to close out with a conversation around competencies for HR professionals. So we talk a lot in HR, and all of you focus a lot on what competencies the employees in your organization need to have in order to be successful in their jobs, right? Many of you are developing learning pathways, you're signing folks up for training, you're building that into your job descriptions and saying, okay, you're a level 1 customer service to get to a level 2. Here are the competencies, here are the training programs. But we in HR need to have some different competencies going forward as well. And we're going to take a look at what that list looks like and talk about those, and also really practically talk about how those show up in our organizations and what we need to do. So from there, let's get started. So pulse check, where are we today? Right? This is kind of the deer in the headlights look at what's happening with our employees. And I don't have to tell any of you this because you know you're dealing with this on a daily basis. What is in the minds of our employees right now? What is causing them to not bring their best selves, being fully productive into our workplaces? It's money. That's one thing, right? I know the latest inflation report came out this week. Things are looking better for sure. Inflation is right around that 5%. You know, we really like to see it around that 2 or 2.2% at the federal level. But it was like 8.5% last year, which means everything got super expensive. So what did we do? We raised our salaries, wages, our compensation. And in some cases, things went a little crazy, right? Where in our struggle to retain talent, we had to go to those high benchmarks in comp, and maybe some of those things are coming back to haunt us today. But our employees are still not breaking even in many cases, especially our earners that are around minimum wage or just above minimum wage. So certainly some in healthcare, some in manufacturing, some in human services. That's weighing heavily on our employees' minds today. And they're worried about their retirement. They're worried about their future. There have been stats that people are pulling back from their 401k contributions because they're worried about paying their bills. Work-life balance has become an enormous factor for all of us. Work-life balance in the form of flexibility, in the form of I have appointments with my kids, I need to go, to I want to work a hybrid schedule. Maybe I want to shift to a part-time schedule. There are more demands on us in HR than ever before, with kind of moving and catering to what our employees are looking for. So we're like that sandwich in the middle, right? We're the peanut butter and jelly, and the bread is our C-suite, and the other half of the bread is our employees. And we're in the middle trying to make things happen, trying to keep everybody happy. Certainly, we can't talk about the minds and the hearts of our employees without talking about the mental health issues that are here with us, that are particularly strong in our young generations, our younger generations that are working, our millennials, our Gen Zs that are coming up the pipeline. There's a lot of thought about why this is happening with this younger generation. And part of it has to do with, you know, some of us, I'm a Gen Xer, we've been through a little more, right? We're seasoned, we had 9/11, we've been through some challenges. Maybe our level of resiliency is a little bit better. So we certainly have to take that into account as we are looking at becoming the nerve center of the organization and catering to both the C-suite and our employees. What is happening with our employees? And that's really not going to go away, that mental health, work-life balance part of things. And professional fulfillment and purpose, I think employees are looking for that tie back from all of you to the mission, vision, values. So all of these things add to our challenge in terms of what we need to do going forward. So these are kind of, I think, the main four things that as we look to build that nerve center in our organization, where we can have empathy, but hold people accountable to things. These are the four things that we really look at as coming forward. It's the flexibility, it's that shared purpose, it's that well-being, that sense that my employer cares about me as a person, not just as a monetary value in the organization. And when we talk about the person first experience, I think it's great to think about yourself, right? When we're consumers, we're buying things. We talk a lot about the Amazon experience. I can go on from my phone while I'm sitting in a parking lot. Hopefully we're not driving while we're ordering on Amazon. I can look something up. I can click buy, boom, I'm done. My orders pop up for me. It's a very, very fast personalized experience. The personalization of things is going to continue to dominate the landscape. So when we look at benefits, for example, our employees might all want something different. Some want more than the traditional health, dental, maybe vision, right? Some are looking for tuition reimbursement. Some might be looking for financial wellness counseling. Others might be looking for pet insurance. Others might be really focused on more around learning and development. That's why lifestyle accounts have really come into play, where instead of picking specific benefits plans, the personalization of benefits has come into play here. The personalization of development pathways for our employees has come into play here. So we look at ourselves as that nerve center. It's more work on us to do this clearly, but I think this has to happen. We've got to look at delivering a personal experience for our employees. So I loved this. I saw this posted on LinkedIn. And as we talk about all of these things, this is such an important component of our success. And most of you, I know a lot of you who are joining this morning, from talking with you, from coming to events, from coming to webinars and things like that, and HR roundtables, you all are doing such a great job bringing empathy into your organizations. Where we need to move the ball further down the field here is with our leaders, our people leaders, right? And this is so important to show people that, you know, what we see is sort of the top of that kind of floating iceberg in people. We see what's going on with them when we look at their behavior, their body language, you know, their expressions on their face, how they show up to work physically. You know, are they looking exhausted? Are they dressed for work? How are they interacting? Are they quiet? Are they boisterous? Are they easily irritated? Right? These are the things that we can see in people's behavior. What we can't see, though, is what's under the surface. We have no idea what's going on in their personal lives. Sometimes they choose to share, sometimes they choose to overshare, right? Which is always a good time. But there could be significant trauma under that surface. So one of the things we have to do is make sure that we are leading with empathy along with that accountability, and training our managers to be able to have those skills, have those competencies to work with our employees. This is really going to be at the heart of the nerve center that we are looking to build, as HR being the heartbeat of the organization, and really the center of the wheel with the spokes going out, all have to have empathy along with them. We can't hold people accountable to productivity, to the demands of the workplace, to going above and beyond the call of duty for us if we're not leading with this, right? So that's certainly a very, very important component of this. So this is the employee side of things, of where we are. Let's go to what the bosses are thinking right now. There's a lot of chatter about a recession, right? So all the predictions are that the second half of the year could be tricky. We are certainly hearing that from our members that are a little bit concerned about what may be coming down the road here at the end of the year. You know, the experts, I'm going to use air quotes here because I don't think anybody really knows, talk about a soft landing. So maybe we're going to have a dip in things with a soft landing. But regardless of that, because we don't know, I think what we've got to do here today is try to set up our infrastructure, build the bones of our house in our organizations to be ready for anything, right? That's what we want to do. So as we look at that, we just talked about what the employees are thinking as we address that. Let's talk about what our C-suite's thinking about and the pressures that are on them. If you have a board of directors, and you have shareholders or stakeholders in the organization, they're worried about profitability, right? They're worried about making numbers. They're worried about sales. You know, we have a member in Connecticut that recently lost a couple of very large accounts, which caused them to have to cut 70% of their workforce. Significant issues, right? That is certainly not what we're hearing across the board. That's one case, but there are challenges out there. The other thing that the C-suite is dealing with today is lower productivity from our employees. So when we're looking at our profit and loss statements, at our P&Ls as senior executives of an organization, your finance managers in your organizations, we're saying our expenses are way up for staffing and our productivity levels are the lowest they've been. So what does that mean, right? We've got a disconnect on that scale here. And in fact, productivity is lower than it's been since we started measuring this in 1947, worker productivity. So there are a lot of things that go into that. Some of the things we just talked about on the employee side of things are going to help that number, but that's what's keeping our executives up at night, right? Meeting the productivity goals of the organization when we've got less productivity coming for our employees and our expenses are up, right? Labor force challenges will continue for us no matter what. We just have to be ready for it. The demographics are not painting a rosy picture. Those of you who have seen my Winning the War on Talent program, I didn't bring all that data with me for this today, but you know the demographics are not on our side of things here. Projected out to the year 2090, the chart looks like this for the number of workers in the workforce. It's at a steady decline. Here in the Northeast, we're at another distinct disadvantage because we are seeing younger generations move out of New England at a higher clip than a lot of other states, right? So when we talk about building that heartbeat in our organization, we know that that's going to be a huge challenge, the labor challenges, because our people are part of that, right? They're part of creating that heartbeat in our organization. So we've got to have a strategy around attracting and retaining the top talent because the labor challenges aren't going away. So these are all the things that are on the minds of our executives. And again, here we are in the middle of that sandwich trying to balance life with our employees and our C-suite. So what do? This is what we don't do, right? This is my favorite game at the Big E. I was just talking about this the other night when we were presenting at HRMA of Western Mass. I love whack-a-mole. I love the game. I love playing it. But this is not how we want to approach HR going forward, right? This is not how we're going to create that nerve center of things. So what do? Here we go. Here are some steps that we're going to take. So when we look holistically at the past 3 years of all the things that have happened and all the challenges we've overcome in our workplaces, and we probably had some wins and we probably had some losses, right? That's natural. What are we going to keep going forward? What are those nuggets of information or those wins or those practices, policies that we're going to keep with us to go forward as we're building this new nerve center in our organizations? That flexible, agile mindset, that can-do attitude has to absolutely come with us, right? That sense of we have no idea what we're going to do tomorrow, but today, this is what we're going to do. We made the decision based on the best outcomes, or what we thought was the best outcome for our organization. We were quick. We analyzed the situation and we were agile. If it didn't work, we changed back, right? We didn't have a choice. We were getting state and federal mandates coming at us from all over the place. We were getting demands from our workers coming from everywhere. So what were we? We were very agile and moving. We're going to take that with us. That's going in the backpack. going forward. Flexible work arrangements. There are so many conversations to have here, and every unique organization has to make their own decisions around flexibility. Flexibility could mean hybrid for some. Certainly can't be hybrid for manufacturing, right? Our folks need to be there hands-on. Human services, we have consumers, we have clients we serve. So flexibility isn't hybrid for us there, but flexibility might appear in other ways. It might appear in flexibility of working different hours during the day. It might appear in job sharing form. It could appear in some of our baby boomers, our knowledge keepers that are with us in our organizations might want to retire, but we're saying to them, how about working a couple days a week? How about, training someone? How about being a mentor in our organizations? So flexible work arrangements are here to stay, wherever we can do them. And it's a very individual choice because every organization is different. So our ability to adapt to things, we have to take that in our backpack too. That's going in there. We're going to have new compliance challenges, without a doubt. The state is going to be implementing some new things for sure. Federally, we'll see if they get some things done. I'm not sure how that's going to go because we've got a very divided national political spectrum right now, but there's probably going to be some changes with FLSA and things like that coming. So that adaptability to change, we're going to toss that in our backpack too, right? We're going to keep that people focus. During the last few years, we have really had the opportunity to get to know our employees much better, personally, more about their families, more about how they feel about things, more about what they want in that, again, currency, that employer-employee currency. We're going to keep that going forward because that's going to help us. Not only is it a good thing to do and the right thing to do, but it is the best thing to do. Studies have shown that if you can keep that empathy with accountability and high-level communication going in your workplace, you will have more engagement, better retention, and more profits at the same time. There's your sales pitch to the CEO on why we need to do this. It's directly tied to more profitability. We're going to toss innovation in that backpack that we're taking with us on this journey too, right? Because everything became completely wide open over the last few years on how we do things. Blank slate, blue ocean thinking. How do we get this done? Throw away the model before. Is there a better way for us to do things? It's great that we have plans and policies and the way we used to do things. But as we go forward and we build that heart-centric, that HR heartbeat-centric organization, we're going to bring innovation with us too. We're going to make sure that we as HR professionals have the ability to say, that's how we've been doing things, but is there an opportunity to do it differently? So that's coming with us. And again, building that employer-employee relationship has to happen, tying people to the mission, vision, values within their organizations. And for you as HR professionals, it means becoming that strategic advisor. If you are that strategic advisor now, you're going to even bring more of that into the organization with your executives. If you're working towards being that strategic business advisor, we're going to help get you there. And here's why we need to do that, and here's how. So Gartner is a great organization that works certainly nationally, internationally as well, surveying things on not only the technical side of life in an organization, but also they're doing a lot of work on the HR side of things. They have come out with their top 5 priorities in HR for this year, really, and the next couple of years. And these are those priorities. This number 1 is a game changer, period. End of story. You are the leaders. You are going to be that central force inside the organization, in that nucleus, in that nerve center. But the stuff that you're going to bring in, the new plans you're going to develop, the new strategies you're going to do, you can't deploy all of that yourselves. Many of you have hundreds of employees. You need some generals, some line leaders, right? Some brand ambassadors to deliver this for you. And these are your managers and your people leaders. So developing them in this mindset of innovation, empathy with accountability and high communication, high touch personalization is going to be the key to your success, without a doubt. A lot of you are dealing with change fatigue, meaning things are evolving at such a rapid clip. Maybe you're changing work hours, you're changing shifts, you're changing benefits, you're changing turnover, right? We've got maybe some turnover in key departments where we've got some issues, and people are exhausted by that change. The cure for change fatigue is more communication. That's it, right? Transparency and communication. So as we look at the design of our organizations, we've got to bring transparent communication into the forefront. The more we talk to people, the less fear there will be around that change. We're going to work on creating that better employee experience. That's what this is all about. So we get more productivity from our employees, more profits, and guess what? We get happier employees. Win, win, win. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, right? That's how it's all going to come together. We are going to be looking at hiring and recruiting new staff, integrating them, onboarding them into the organization. And we're looking at workforce planning that includes succession planning. The baby boomers that are retiring are a very big 80 million plus generation. The Gen Xers that are coming up, well, it's like a 45 million number generation. Wow, big disconnect. Where are we going to get our managers to come from, right? We're not going to have that huge population to tap into of the Gen Xers, right? So we're looking at the millennials. We're looking at the Gen Ys that are coming up the ranks. So we've got to look at workforce planning too. Some additional trends that we're going to be looking out for as we're looking to build that nerve center, that heartbeat in our organization. I love this chart because it really captures everything that we're all looking at doing and thinking about. So we're looking to grab that in-demand talent, that high-demand talent, right? I think we all have to stop talking about quiet quitting, quiet firing, quiet hiring, and just focus on building these better internal organizations, right? But that still is going to be an issue, getting talent. We talked about hybrid flexibility. Let's talk about our managers are sandwiched between this too, right? Which is why the Gartner report was so key that your number one plan here needs to be around leader education, people leader education and development. Your leaders, your managers are sandwiched between expectations from the C-suite and the demands from employees. They're that front line. They're taking the fire from your employees about what they want, what they don't like, what they need to see to stay with you. The pursuit of non-traditional candidates is really key. Are we looking everywhere we can for talent? Have we uncovered some additional talent pools? Are we working with every organization that we can to find talent? I think, there's a lot of trauma coming off the pandemic. There's a lot of mental wellness, mental health issues. We're looking at doing some specific programming here at EA&E around that, very drilled down from the national level. But we have to understand that some of those traumas, some of that stuff that people are carrying into the future as we're looking to build that heartbeat-centric organization is we're going to have to manage people differently through performance because of that. But we can do that. We just need to recognize it. DEIB, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I think with a lot of us have to have that heavy focus on belonging, which can be a challenge inside organizations. We've spoken to many of you. We've got a DEI survey that's going to be going out soon to member organizations about where you are in your DEIB journey, so we can be more of a support and a resource for you. So look forward to that, and please fill that out so we can develop programs that are going to help you. But there's pushback sometimes from top levels. There's time pushbacks on your plates, but we need to look at those things and incorporate that into a strategy. We're getting more personal with our employees, certainly. Sometimes that can create risks on the data side as well as other ways. but we're going to continue down that path. And then, I think number 9 is something that we could probably do an entire webinar on, is that erosion of social skills, right? That erosion of general respect and civility in the workplace, communication, because we're all doing this all the time. So these are some of the other trends that we're going to incorporate into what we need to have as skills as HR professionals going forward. I threw this slide in there because I think it's a really interesting representation of, it's repeating some of the same things we've talked about regarding priorities, the leader and manager effectiveness, OD, change management, and the focus on the employee experience with those external factors on the outside of that circle, right? We're still in a talent struggle. We still have economic pressure, and whether it's national, regional, or global supply constraints, I think these are still main priorities for us. And those outside factors continue to push inwards on those key 3 things that we're focused on in HR. So let's drill down a little bit to our own competencies. We talked about the external factors impacting things, where we are today. We talked about the priorities for HR professionals as we're building that nerve center, that HR nerve center in our organizations. Here's where we want to spend a little bit of time, for sure, on the HR professionals competency model. And I love this because I think it really speaks to everything here that we need to be doing to help ourselves create this model going forward. So let's start down at the bottom left with relationship management and collaboration, networking, and those key phrases of persuasion and influence. Because to truly build or enhance or really innovate as the heartbeat inside an organization from where everything is going to come from successfully in our organizations, we have to have that influence in our companies. We can't be that straight compliance center where everybody goes, oh yeah, go to HR for benefits, go there, if you have a problem with your paycheck, but don't talk to them for anything else because that's all they do, right? No, that is not what we want to be known for internally. We don't want to be the compliance police. We want to be known as the place to go that will get things done, that will listen to our concerns, and that's driving innovation for the organization. We want our employees to feel that way. We want our executives to feel that way in the middle. So we have to develop our own skills on persuasion and influence. Not a lot of us are comfortable with that, right? It takes some training. It takes some networking and collaboration. Maybe it might take some training classes on influencing without authority, things like that. But it also takes us being more comfortable with our knowledge of our organization to be able to have those conversations, right? It takes collaborating with our CFO, our finance manager, our operations people, where we make sure we know them well enough to be able to call them up and say, can we have lunch today and talk about this? It's us consciously saying, I am going to have a better relationship with finance and operations and even my CEO. If you don't have those relationships, we don't have to agree on everything. We may give each other pushback, but we have to work on building those relationships. That is so, so key to our success in being that heartbeat internally. We talked a little bit about growth mindset and innovation. I think we also can't be afraid of that. We talk to a lot of members that are hesitant to try new things or put new things on the table because of those 5 words. We've always done it that way. We've always done it 6 words. Sorry, I can't count this morning. Not enough coffee. We've always done it that way. Those words should be tossed out, right? That's not to say we're tossing out everything that we're doing, how we're doing it, or how we've ever done it. There's value there. There's history there. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't change how we do things, that we shouldn't always be in that innovation mindset as HR professionals to bring that into the organization. That is a competency that's like a muscle, right? It's like your bicep. If you don't flex it, you're not going to build it. So it also doesn't mean we jump in and we try to change everything all at the same time, right? It means as we look at those HR priorities around employee engagement, productivity, communication, we're going to pick some priorities and we're going to think about how we innovate in those spaces. Let's go to strategic consulting. Consultative problem solving, project management, risk management. A lot of this, you're doing risk management in the form of workers' compensation. You're doing it in the form of managing, reasonable suspicion in your organization, things like that. You're doing it around your employee, your insurance and benefits renewals, things like that. But really being that consultative problem solver that your CEO, your president, your executive VPs, your CFO can come to you with and bounce something off of, that's a really important competency and another muscle to start flexing. And if you're not comfortable there, then there's ways to go out and get it. There's ways to go out and build that muscle so you feel more comfortable in that space. Let's go across to talent management. Strategic HR expertise. Many of you have this. You're doing this on a daily basis. Here's where I think you're comfortable, the talent management space, right? Where you're managing your employee experience today, you're going through and doing things that are creating a better workplace, improving your culture, those kind of things. So you're doing a lot of those today, but I think it's just keeping your eye on the pulse of what else we might want to be doing in that space. The top two, I think, are worth a little bit of a deeper dive. So let's jump into the business acumen side of things. And again, those competencies are going to be really important to have, all 6 of those that we just saw, as you're building your brand inside your organization. Because when you build your brand and you create that influence, that helps you build that nerve center, that heartbeat of the organization, and get things done that need to be done for the team. So in terms of business acumen, what do we know about our organizations? Do we know the strategic vision? Do we know the plan for the organization? Do we know the financials? Are we well versed in the financials? If we're not privy to the financials, are we asking for those? Hey, what's our top revenue generating line of business? What are we doing to increase business this year? Talk to your salespeople. Where are the salespeople going? What kind of business are they driving for? If you're in nonprofit human services, what are our goals? Are we serving additional populations? Are there new programs we're going to be offering, right? That we really need a deeper dive in outside of your direct involvement with them. You need to hire for these positions, but do you know enough about your organizations to be able to sit with your CFO and have that conversation, or your CEO? Do you have a relationship with them where you're that trusted advisor? Do you understand industry trends that are impacting your organization today and down the road? What is your CEO talking about to their board? What's happening out there, right? Are you familiar with sustainability initiatives, with strategic initiatives? Do you know and adjust those talking points when you're talking to those strategic stakeholders that you're building relationships with? If you're going to your CEO or your CFO asking to spend money on a new payroll HRIS system, on an applicant tracking system, on better, bigger ads on LinkedIn or Indeed, hey, I want to do this. I want to start maybe some employee resource groups. I'd like a kitty of money for each one of them so they could do X, Y, and Z to build employee engagement. When you're talking to your CFO, you have to talk dollars, right? You have to say, this will impact the organization by increasing X, right? This expense is going to bring the money back into our organization by delivering retention, because the cost of a turnover is pretty high. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Know your data facts, right? But adjust your conversations as you're talking to different people in the organization to what their priorities are. That's how you're going to build those relationships, to show that you understand things outside the world of HR. Can you comfortably discuss this with them, and how your work in human resources impacts the rest of the organization? Can you advocate? Do you feel comfortable advocating for that? I've listed here some organizations that provide a lot of great data points that we use here at EANE, that we bring into some of our programs for you, that you can check out, and you will get these slides after the program at some point later today, for sure, in this recording. The Fast Company, Inc. magazine has an online newsletter you can sign up for. Forbes has some great general information. Mercer, World at Work, and WorkHuman are really, really specific to HR. World at Work is specific to compensation and total rewards. These are great organizations for you to follow. Many of them have newsletters you can sign up for. So let's go to data, right? The dreaded data. Excuse me. There are certain things that we have to be measuring internally, not only for our own knowledge, right? And I am the person who hates the data, right? I just want to go. I'm down the road. I know what I want to do. I'm jogging down the street. And then somebody like, Darlene on our team will tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, wait a second. We need to look at the data here on this, right? She's my detail girl. She's going to tell me this is what the data is telling us. So that has to be part of the story. We are dealing with people. We are the human side of the business, but data provides an opportunity for great storytelling, right? And just like Peter Drucker says, if it's not measured, it probably isn't going to get improved, right? We need to have key data points. Here are some of the key data points we need to be measuring in HR for great storytelling, as we, again, are working on building ourselves as the nerve center in an organization and building those relationships. We need to know our cost per hire on average, our turnover stats, right? Our absenteeism rate. Are we measuring employee satisfaction somehow, right? You don't have to pay big fancy survey companies for this information. You can do it yourself. You can still do paper surveys. We have a lot of members that are still passing out paper, like secret ballot style, right? Like we did in high school, voting in high school. It's okay. You can do informal data collection. You can do employee peer group focus groups, right? Where you get a group together and say, we're looking for your feedback on things. It's okay to collect data in a multitude of different ways. A lot of this, hopefully, you can get out of your payroll HRIS system. Our payroll and data systems are only as good as what we're asking them to do. Oftentimes, we use about 20% of what the capabilities are. So maybe that goes on your list of things to do, to say, I'm going to reach out to my vendor and find out how I can get some of these reports done for our organization, right? You're identifying your high potential employees, critical. What are we spending on training? What should we be spending on training in our organizations per employee? And know those stats around what really is the ratio of HR professionals to employees in the organization to be effective in what we're doing. That's really, really key. So these are some of the data points. There are many of them. Decide what's best for your organization. You also are going to want to measure metrics around your managers as you're doing performance evaluations. Do you have certain people leaders that are consistently scoring below average? And we've got to address those, right? We talked about the importance of your people leaders. So this is really what it all comes down to here. As we work on that nerve center and being the heartbeat of the organization, there are some data points that we're going to bring into this, certainly, but it's that blend of empathy and accountability that we bring into the organization around all of those priorities. The way that we're going to reach our maximum potential as an organism, as an organizational organism, as an entity, is by finding our way to the top of this pyramid, where our employees are with us because they have an emotional connection to the organization. This is not always an easy sell up the chain in companies, right? In your organization. It's very, very warm and fuzzy and squishy. But in HR, We are the fluffy kitty sometimes. We're not always the hammer of compliance, right? We've got to be both. And when we're talking to operational leaders, C-suite leaders, the sell for getting to the top of this chart is everybody can have a contractual organization where people get paid to come to work, paid to do their job, get some benefits, and they go home. If they get offered 50 cents an hour more, $1 an hour more, they're probably gone if you're engaging them at that level. That creates a lot of problems for you. We know this, right? The more we move up this ladder, whether it's, around career development, whether it's around well-being initiatives, we create a better employee experience, which creates higher employee engagement, which creates more employee productivity, which creates more revenue for your organization. This is the vernacular we need to be using in our organizations. And when we go back to those data points and measure some of those and throw those stats out to our CFOs, our presidents, our leaders, that's where I think you're going to get some buy-in to do some of the great work that you all want to do. When we hit that top of that pyramid and people have an emotional connection to where they work, they enjoy coming to work every day, they're motivated, they see their link to the mission, vision, values, they feel like they're compensated fairly. There's the magic. That's where it happens right there. You've got them. And then the mystery is how to keep them engaged, right? Keep building on that momentum. So all of this is a lot of information, I realize. And if you're saying to yourself, yes, I've got some competencies I want to work on. Yes, those are a lot of priorities that you've asked me to think about today to create that nerve center, that heartbeat nerve center in my organization around HR. Where do I start the journey? Where should I go first? Start here. Start with your 5-point total rewards model. Make sure your compensation is where it needs to be. It doesn't need to be the highest. It doesn't have to be medium. It can be on the lower tier of the scale. Some of us in nonprofit and human service, we can't compete, but we've got to use these other 4 points in this model to be able to deliver some value, to deliver something with our employee engagement, right? Make sure you've got a comp strategy, right? We offer a lot of resources around that for you guys, for members. We can talk about that more. That's a conversation we can have for sure. Where am I? We offer benchmarking through those free pay factors benchmarks that you get access to. We have additional survey information. Know where you stand, own it, create your plan, and then look at other things, right? Everyone should be looking at their benefits right now, whether your renewal was January, July 1, coming up in the fall. I know everybody falls in a different place. If you aren't working with a benefits broker that is willing to have a detailed conversation about what you can be doing differently, find a different one. Go shopping. It is complex. It is the opportunities are endless, and you need a partner in this space. And we can help with some referrals there as well, but you need a benefits partner, not a vendor today. What can we do around well-being? Guess what? We have a new platform called Zywave. Some of you have been in it. Some of you haven't yet. It's a member benefit. This is just one example of what you can do around wellness. If you want to say to me, yeah, wellness is great, Allison, but guess what? You just gave me a whole laundry list of other priorities. That's always going to, be at the bottom of the list. I just have too much on my plate. Go into Zywave. They have an entire wellness app in there. They have newsletters. They have articles. They have videos. You can build it just out of Zywave. And if you have any questions about that, just type it into the chat. Give us your email in the chat. We'll send you more information on that, or reach out to your membership rep about that. We'll give you a demo. We had one yesterday, and we're going to have another one the end of the month. And we can send you that information. Development, key, right? We've got to look at ways to develop our employees. If you're in Massachusetts or Rhode Island, there's training funds available to a lot of you. When you're a nonprofit and you don't pay into unemployment, it gets a little more difficult to do. But look at ways you can develop your staff through mentorships, through coaching, and through training. And that really, really key recognition. What are we doing for employee recognition on a peer-to-peer basis, on a manager level basis, and from a C-suite basis? Take a look at your total rewards, those 5 points on the star, and those are great places to start. Again, as you're looking to enhance or innovate with that heartbeat inside the organization that is HR. And as we close out here, I loved this. I loved this chart. I don't remember where I saw it. It came from Hacking HR. You know, we don't get a lot of development ourselves sometimes. That's why we love when you all come to our HR roundtables, you come to our conferences. That's a day for you, right? Because you are often an island in your organizations. We know that. We know that you feel isolated sometimes because you have a lot of responsibilities on your plate. This really kind of was like a little kind of power up thing, I think, to share with all of you that, you know, we need to keep in mind, we are doing our best every day. We come in with the best intentions and we can't get everything done on our to-do list all the time, but we sure try like heck to get them all done. But you're all doing an amazing job. So this is just a little graphic to show that, you know, when you have a growth mindset as an HR professional, and you might need a reminder, you know, hey, print this out when we send it off to you and stick it on your board, stick it next to your computer, and something for you to look at. So for sure. So I am going to stop sharing at this point and open it up to see if anybody has any questions, any comments, any thoughts about what you've heard today. Was it helpful? Are there any thoughts you have around some of those competencies on HR that you're working on? If you want to weigh in, you can feel free to unmute yourself and weigh in here. And thank you, Michelle, for that note about Xywave. Take the demo, and absolutely these slides will go out for sure. Mm-hmm. So if there's no questions, I certainly don't want to keep you. I know we've just given you a laundry list of things to think about. I hope this was helpful. You guys know where to find me here at EA&E. Feel free to reach out, send me an email, give me a buzz here. Let us know what you thought of the webinar today. We will definitely be able to get out that information for credits. Typically with our HR roundtable, our HR webinars, there's a credit link that we can send you, but you can also go in and file that yourself on HRCI's website. So that's the way we handle that. So I wish you all a wonderful weekend. I hope you get out to enjoy the weather today. It's beautiful. Eat your lunch outside for sure. Enjoy your day. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks from EA&E, everybody.